My husband left me standing in the freezing rain on a remote access road deep in the Cascades. He did not even roll down the window. He just engaged the child locks on our smart car, revved the engine, and shouted through the glass that I needed a timeout to learn some respect before his IPO launch tomorrow. He thought he was leaving me with no coat, no signal, and no way out. He thought he was teaching me a lesson about power. He drove away, watching me in his rearview mirror, convinced I was breaking. He was wrong. Drop a comment and let me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. I would love to know who is part of our community. Panic is just unoptimized data processing. I refused to run that program. I did not chase the fading taillights of the car that had been my prison for the last 3 years. I just stood there, letting the icy rain soak through my thin silk blouse, waiting until the engine noise disappeared around the bend. Then, I bent down and unzipped my left boot. Tucked inside the lining, wrapped in a waterproof pouch, was a satellite phone. Gregory knew nothing about it. He knew nothing about a lot of things. He thought he was married to a trophy wife, a former UX designer he had rescued from the grind of corporate tech. He did not know he was married to the actual architect of his entire empire. I dialed a number I had memorized 6 months ago. Tyler picked up on the first ring. "Is it done?" His voice was calm, the steady anchor I needed. "It is done," I said. He left me at the drop point. "Initiate extraction. ETA 5 minutes. Sit tight, Sid. We are coming." I hung up and slipped the phone back into my boot. 5 minutes. Simple. I had handled 3 years of surveillance, of having my calories tracked by a smart fridge and my spending monitored by an algorithm he claimed was for our financial health. I had handled the gaslighting, the subtle erosion of my reality, the constant reminders that I was lucky to be Mrs. Gregory Vance. Standing in the rain was just a reboot. A black SUV appeared around the curve, its headlights cutting through the storm like lasers. It pulled up beside me, the back door swinging open before it even came to a complete stop. I climbed into the warm, leather-scented interior, and the door locked behind me with a reassuring thud. Tyler was in the front seat, monitoring a laptop dashboard. He did not turn around, just nodded at my reflection in the rearview mirror. "You okay?" "I am perfect," I said, and for the first time in years, I meant it. I pulled my own tablet from the hidden compartment under the seat. The screen glowed to life, displaying the network architecture of Gregory's company, Vance Tech. It was a beautiful system, elegant and ruthless. It was also entirely mine. My father had written the core code 20 years ago, before he died, before Gregory acquired it along with me. "Status on the IPO?" I asked, my fingers flying across the virtual keyboard. "Scheduled to go live in 14 hours, Tyler said. "Investors are lined up. Valuation is hovering at $4 billion. "Not for long," I whispered. I navigated to the root directory, the deepest level of the system that only the original creator could access. Gregory had built firewalls, encryption layers, biometric locks. He thought his fortress was impenetrable. He forgot that every fortress has a back door if you know where to look. And I did not just know where to look. I had built the door. I selected the command file labeled Protocol 0. "Are you sure?" Tyler asked, his eyes meeting mine in the mirror. "Once we do this, there is no going back. You burn it down, you burn your old life with it." My old life was a cage, Tyler. It was gold-plated and high-tech, but it was still a cage. I am not burning it down. I am breaking out. I hit execute. On the screen, a progress bar appeared. 0%, 1%. It was slow, silent, and lethal. It wasn't deleting the data. That would be crude. It was encrypting it, locking it behind a key that only existed in my head. By the time Gregory walked onto that stage tomorrow morning to ring the opening bell, his revolutionary tech would be nothing but $1 billion of useless frozen code. "Drive," I said. "We have a war room to get to." The SUV accelerated, leaving the mountain and the rain behind. The fear center of my brain was quiet. The regret center was offline. I felt only the cold, hard clarity of a balance sheet finally squaring up. Gregory wanted to teach me a lesson about power. He was about to learn that you never, ever underestimate the person who holds the keys to your kingdom. The rain outside blurred the city lights into streaks of neon, reminding me of the first time Gregory brought me to our penthouse. He called it a sanctuary. I did not know then that a sanctuary locked from the outside is just a cell. People ask why I stayed. They expect a story of violence or threats, something loud and obvious. But real cruelty is rarely loud. It is quiet. It is efficient. It is an update you did not ask for but cannot uninstall. It starts as protection. I set up alerts on your cards so you do not have to worry about fraud, he said. Then it became, I adjusted the smart fridge settings to help you reach your wellness goals. It felt like care. It felt like being cherished. That is the trap. You do not jump out of the pot because the water is not boiling yet. It is just pleasantly warm. By the time it starts to burn, your muscles have already atrophied from lack of use. For 3 years, I lived in a world of algorithmic control. If I bought a coffee that wasn't on the approved list, my phone buzzed with a budget variance notification. If I opened a window, the climate control system overrode me within 30 seconds. I was not a wife. I was a user with limited permissions in my own life. And the worst part? He convinced me I needed it. He convinced me that after my father died, I was too fragile, too emotional, too creative to handle the hard data of existence. Leave the tech to the men, Sydney, he would say, patting my hand when I asked about the company. The heavy lifting, the audacity of it still made my breath hitch. Gregory was not a coder, he was a salesman. A brilliant, charismatic empty suit. The code he was about to launch, the revolutionary compression algorithm that had investors drooling, was not his. It was my father's. My father had spent 20 years writing the dataless kernel, a piece of software so advanced it could compress data without a single byte of loss. He died before he could patent it. I was his only heir. I owned Daedalus. Gregory did not marry me for love. He merged with me. He acquired me like a distressed asset because he needed the password to my father's server. And once he had it, he spent 3 years trying to delete the administrator me. He thought if he made me small enough, if he gaslit me into believing I was just a pretty face who drew pretty pictures, I would forget that I wrote the encryption key myself. I looked down at my hands. They were not shaking anymore. The water was boiling now, but I was not in the pot. I was the one holding the lid down. He wanted to sell my father's legacy to the highest bidder and erase my name from history. He wanted to launch his IPO on stolen ground. "We are here," Tyler said, slowing the SUV. We pulled up to a nondescript industrial building in Pioneer Square. No doorman, no smart locks, just brick and steel and safety. "Let's go," I said. "I have a kill switch to build." I stepped out of the car, leaving the terrified, controlled woman I used to be in the back seat. She did not exist anymore. The only person walking into that building was the rightful CEO of Vance Tech, and she was coming to collect. The phone buzzed against the steel table like an angry hornet. I didn't flinch. I just glanced at the screen. The timestamps told a story of escalating panic disguised as authority. 10:42 p.m. "Stop playing games, Sydney. The driver is waiting at the bottom of the hill. You have made your point." 10:55 p.m. "Pick up the phone. You are embarrassing me." 11:15 p.m. "I am cutting off your cards until you learn to behave. Do not bother coming home tonight." He thought I was stumbling through the mud, crying, regretting my disobedience. He thought he was freezing my assets. He did not know that I had liquidated my grandmother's jewelry collection 6 months ago and converted it into cryptocurrency held on a cold wallet. He did not know I was currently sitting in a loft in Pioneer Square that didn't exist on any of his tracking apps. "He is getting desperate," Lisa said, sliding a thick document across the table. Lisa was a corporate IP attorney who specialized in hostile takeovers. She didn't do messy divorces. She did corporate assassinations. I had retained her 3 months ago with the proceeds from a vintage watch Gregory had bought me as an apology for missing our anniversary, a watch I had promptly sold. "Let him spiral," I said, picking up a pen. "It makes him sloppy." "We have the injunction ready," Lisa said, tapping the paper. "It is not a divorce filing. It is a federal cease and desist based on intellectual property theft. We are claiming that the core architecture of the IPO, the dataless kernel, is stolen property belonging to the estate of your father, and by extension, you. And the financials? I asked, looking at Tyler. Tyler projected a spreadsheet onto the exposed brick wall. It was a forensic map of Gregory's greed. He got sloppy, Tyler said. He thought you were too checked out to notice, so he stopped hiding the tracks. Here, $3.84 million moved to shell companies in Nevis and Belize over the last 18 months. He isn't just launching an IPO. He is cashing out. He was planning to dump the stock, crash the company, and leave you with the wreckage. I looked at the numbers. 3.84 million. That wasn't just money. That was my father's life work, liquefied and siphoned off to buy Gregory a golden parachute. He thinks I am an expense, I said, my voice flat. A liability he has to manage. He has no idea I am the creditor coming to foreclose. Once we file this, Lisa warned, her eyes sharp, there is no turning back. He will come at you with everything. His lawyers, the board, the press. He will try to paint you as the crazy, vindictive ex-wife who doesn't understand business. I am counting on it, I said. Let him think this is emotional. Let him think I am just a scorned woman trying to hurt him. If he thinks I am reacting out of emotion, he won't look for the logic. He won't see the kill switch until I press it. I signed the last page of the affidavit. The scratch of the pen on paper was the loudest sound in the room. It wasn't a signature. It was a declaration of war. File it, I said, and make sure it is served exactly 5 minutes before he takes the stage. Lisa nodded, a shark recognizing blood in the water. Protocol 0 is active. The IPO is dead on arrival. I turned my phone over and finally replied to Gregory's barrage of texts with a single line. I am not playing games, Gregory. I am finishing them. Then I turned the phone off. The wife was gone. The CEO was online. Tyler called it the ghost protocol. We went dark. The safe house was a fortress of silence, insulated from the digital storm we knew Gregory was unleashing. My phone was off. SIM card destroyed. Lisa's team was scrubbing my digital footprint, replacing my current location with false pings in Singapore, London, and Dubai. Gregory would be chasing ghosts across 3 continents while I sat 10 miles away, watching his empire burn. But even ghosts leave traces, and sometimes the people haunting you are closer than you think. Incoming encrypted packet, Tyler said, his fingers pausing over the keyboard. Source is internal. Someone inside the main server is trying to bypass the firewall we just put up. Is it Gregory? I asked, moving to stand behind him. No. Gregory does not know how to bypass a firewall. He thinks password 123 is secure. This is sophisticated. It is someone with admin privileges. Tyler pulled up the user log. The cursor blinked, revealing a name that made the breath catch in my throat. User, Sierra. Vance guest access. Sierra. My cousin. My maid of honor. The only person in my family I had trusted since my father died. The person I had cried to about Gregory's control, who had held my hand when I confessed I was terrified to leave. No, I whispered. She would not. She is scanning for the decryption key, Tyler said, his voice devoid of emotion. She is trying to unlock the code for him. I felt the nausea rise, bile and betrayal mixing in my throat. Sierra was not tech-savvy. She was an influencer, a lifestyle guru who made her living posting curated photos of avocado toast and authentic travel. She did not know how to bypass a firewall, unless someone gave her the tools, unless she had been given access a long time ago. Check the access logs, I said, my voice shaking. How long has she had admin rights? Tyler typed a command. The screen filled with data. Access granted. 14 months ago. Authorized by Gregory Vance. 14 months. For 14 months, my cousin had been inside my father's system. For 14 months, she had been feeding Gregory information. Why? I asked the empty room. She hates him. She told me he was a monster. Tyler opened another window. Follow the money, he said. And there it was, a monthly transfer from a Vance shell company to an account labeled Sierra Brand Consulting. $12,000 a month, exactly the amount she needed to cover the debt she had accumulated from her failed clothing line. Gregory hadn't just bought her silence, he had bought her loyalty. He had weaponized the only family I had left against me. She sold me, I said, the words tasting like ash. She sold my father's legacy for rent money. I remembered the times she had come over for wine, asking questions about the code, about where I kept the backups. I thought she was being supportive. I thought she cared. She was mining data. She was the spy in the house of love. She is still trying to break in, Tyler said. She is persistent. Let her in, I said. Tyler turned, shocked. What? Let her in. Give her access to a dummy drive. Let her think she found the key. Let her download it. Because, I said, leaning closer to the screen, watching the digital footprint of my betrayal. If she delivers a corrupted file to Gregory 5 minutes before the launch, he won't check it. He will trust her because he thinks he owns her. And when he tries to run the IPO on a virus instead of a product, the crash will be spectacular. I watched as Sierra's digital avatar accessed the fake file. I watched her download the poison pill I had just authorized. You are cold, Tyler said, but there was admiration in his tone. I learn from the best, I said. Gregory taught me that everyone has a price. Sierra just taught me that family is a depreciating asset. I walked to the window, looking out at the city that felt colder, sharper than it had an hour ago. The isolation was complete now. No husband, no cousin, no family, just me and the mission. Send the file, I said. Tell her she saved the day. Tyler hit send. The trap was baited. The rat had taken the cheese, and tomorrow the cage would snap shut. The glass-walled arbitration room on the 40th floor of the Meridian Tower felt less like a meeting space and more like an execution chamber. Below, Seattle was waking up, oblivious to the billion-dollar war about to unfold above the fog. Inside, the air was recycled and tense. Gregory sat at the head of the mahogany table, flanked by 3 lawyers in suits that cost more than my first car. He looked immaculate. The sleepless night hadn't touched him. He thrived on chaos. He was checking his watch, tapping a gold pen against the glass surface. He was waiting for the opening bell. He was waiting to become a billionaire. When the doors opened, he didn't look up immediately. He expected a courier, maybe a junior associate. When he saw me, his hand froze mid-tap. I didn't walk in like a victim. I didn't walk in like a wife. I walked in wearing a tailored black suit, my hair pulled back, carrying nothing but a slim tablet. Lisa walked beside me, silent and lethal. Sydney? Gregory's voice was a mix of confusion and irritation. What are you doing here? Go home. We can talk about your little tantrum later. There is no home, Gregory, I said, my voice calm, projecting to the back of the room where the board members sat. And there is no later. There is only now. Security. Gregory snapped at his lead counsel. Remove her. She is trespassing. Actually, Lisa interjected, sliding a single sheet of paper across the table. She is the majority shareholder of the intellectual property you are attempting to list. Removing her would be a federal crime. Gregory laughed. It was a hollow, nervous sound. Intellectual property? She draws logos. For God's sake, she doesn't know a line of code from a grocery list. Is that right? I asked. I connected my tablet to the room's main projector. The wall behind Gregory lit up. On the left side of the screen was the revolutionary Vance source code prepared for the IPO filing. On the right was a time-stamped file from my father's hard drive, dated 6 years ago. They were identical. The dataless kernel, I said, pointing to the screen. My father's life work. You didn't write it, Gregory. You stole it. And you didn't even bother to change the variable names. The room went silent. The board members leaned forward, their faces pale. The investors in the back began whispering. Gregory stood up. his face flushing a dangerous shade of red. "This is a fabrication," he shouted. "She is hysterical. She is trying to sabotage me because I cut off her credit cards." "Check the metadata," I said coolly. My father signed every block of code with a digital watermark. It is his initials, embedded in the architecture. I typed a command. The screen highlighted thousands of instances of AV Arthur Vance hidden within the code. "You are a fraud, Gregory. You built a castle on sand, and the tide just came in." Gregory looked around the room, searching for an ally, for an escape. He looked at his lawyers, who were now frantically whispering among themselves. He looked at the board, who were avoiding his gaze. Finally, he looked at me. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a raw, naked terror. "Sydney," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Baby, we can work this out. Don't do this. You're destroying us." "There is no us," I said. "There never was. There was just you and the asset you tried to liquidate." Lisa stepped forward and handed him a thick envelope. "This is a federal injunction halting the IPO immediately pending an investigation into IP theft and corporate fraud. The SEC has already been notified." Gregory sank into his chair. He looked small. He looked like a man who had just realized the gold cage he built was actually for him. "It is over, Gregory," I said. "The game is over." I disconnected my tablet and turned to leave. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The sound of his world collapsing was the only applause I needed. The fallout was swift, brutal, and entirely legal. Gregory was escorted out of the building by security, his access badge deactivated before he even reached the elevator. The board voted to oust him within the hour. By the time the markets closed, the SEC had opened a formal investigation into Vance Tech for securities fraud and intellectual property theft. He didn't just lose his company. He lost his reputation, his future, and likely his freedom. Sierra didn't fare much better. When the payments from the shell companies stopped, so did her lifestyle. I didn't sue her. I didn't need to. I just cut her off. Without Gregory's hush money, her debts caught up with her within weeks. The last I heard, she was selling her designer wardrobe on resale apps to make rent. I reclaimed my name. I went back to Sydney Vance. Not the wife, not the victim, but the daughter of Arthur Vance and the rightful owner of his genius. The settlement was substantial. I walked away with the $2.4 million Gregory had hidden in the royalty fund, plus damages. Lisa told me I could retire. I could buy an island. I could disappear and never look at a line of code again. But that is the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge is burning the house down to kill the spider. Justice is evicting the spider and turning the house into a shelter. I didn't want to hoard the power Gregory had tried to steal. He believed that value came from scarcity, from locking things away behind paywalls and patents. He thought power was something you kept for yourself. I chose a different path. I chose the justice of the sower. I took the dataless kernel, the code my father had spent his life perfecting, and I did the one thing Gregory would never have understood. I made it open source. I released it to the world, free. I used the settlement money to launch the Vance Initiative, an open-source education platform specifically for girls in underprivileged communities who want to code. I built the infrastructure my father never got to see. Now, instead of one man using that code to buy a yacht, thousands of young women are using it to build the future. I see them in the classrooms I fund, their faces glowing in the light of their monitors, writing scripts that will change the world. They are building bridges, not cages. Standing in the back of one of those classrooms, watching a 12-year-old girl crack a complex encryption I wrote as a challenge, I finally felt the last knot in my chest loosen. Gregory tried to erase me. He tried to make me small. But you cannot delete an architect. You can only watch as she redesigns the world without you in it. I closed my laptop. The screen went black, reflecting my own face, calm, clear, and finally, free. I walked out into the sunlight, leaving the cage behind forever. If you believe that true strength is rebuilding what others tried to destroy, share this story. You never know who needs to hear that they are the architect of their own freedom.